Hello, everybody. It's Teresa Shaver from the Business Advisory Center, Durham. I'm so happy to have you here today. I am meeting with Melissa Jones from 3816 Creative. We met on Facebook in a Facebook group and became friends from that. And Melissa took part in our Do It in Durham. And today we're going to talk about what it means to launch something. And she's going to talk through launching, but also a little bit about her background and her business as well. So Melissa, welcome. Please tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Yes, thanks so much for having me today. I am located in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm the owner of 3816 Creative. We are a full service brand, web, and digital marketing agency with a collective 20 years of experience. And we specifically focus on integrated brand strategy. So we really work with whether it's small businesses or major brands alike across a variety of spaces to really help them have plans for new offers, for ongoing communication with their customer base, and to make sure things are consistent and strong throughout.
Right. Very, very important. I know that during Do It in Durham, we did a workshop really on branding and brand identity, and the feedback was phenomenal in terms of people really understanding who their customers are. I would say that's one of the biggest challenges our clients have is like, who are your customers, right? And then marketing your offers to that. So I know we're going to talk about ready, set, launch. Tell me what's your definition of launch. Launch is common. Everybody says it. We're launching offers. I just don't know the context of how it's used, and I'd love you to tell our audience about that.
Yes. So a launch really simply is anytime you're going to bring a product or service that is new to your market or your customer base. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a completely crazy off the wall product that no one has ever seen before, right? Sometimes it's just you choosing to offer it to your market in a way that you haven't before, or repackaging a service in a specific way. Oftentimes I tell people that we typically can overthink our launches, right? I call it analysis paralysis is totally a thing. And so today I'm really excited to walk people through like a very simple framework of where do you start, and then we'll go through some common questions and even some myths surrounding launching.
Wonderful. That'd be wonderful. Now, everybody, it's a 6-step process. It's pretty easy, just 6 steps, and we're gonna go through it from the beginning to the end. So Melissa, I'd love you to give an example of a brick and mortar business. You shared about a photography service-based business. What about a brick and mortar business? What ideas do you have for finding a launch item or offer?
Right. So as I think about brick and mortar businesses, one of my favorite examples is a juicery, right? A place that focuses on wellness, and maybe you specifically have a entry level where someone is coming in and they're purchasing a single item, right? Well, then for a juicery and for more long-term health, I would think about more subscription-based models or larger packs. So I would think about something like, coming in 2022, we're going to do a class on juicing, and then you can buy a 1, 2, or 3 day juicing detox, right? So that would be an immediate way I could take someone that was coming in maybe once a week and actually offering them a stronger form of education behind the why, but then also see them go to almost more of an advanced level or tier, because I know once they buy a 1, 2, or 3 day juicing detox, so that might be something that they want to do quarterly, bi-yearly, or do it sometimes in sync with maybe another form of health and wellness, like running marathons, for example, right? So knowing your target audience there, and then figuring out how can I make this more of a daily kind of part of their lifestyle with a bit more education and one-on-one care.
Great idea. So then from there, that's really the foundation. That's step 1, right? What is step 2? So Melissa, that covers step 1 beautifully. Let's move on to step 2. Tell us a little bit about what to do next.
Yes. So then you want to have your customer validate the idea of your offer or service.
Right.
Now, oftentimes I'm kind of met with the objection when I introduce this idea. Well, how am I supposed to do that if it isn't actually launched yet, right? Like, how would I be able to do that? So specifically, I want you to think through really what I call low-hanging fruit ways to do this. So in more traditional advertising settings, we would do things like focus groups to get a target customer in a room and And I want you to think about really quick, low-hanging fruit ways that you can do this, even in a digital capacity. So things like polling on your Facebook or your Instagram stories, for example, offering these ideas as private sales just to practice your pitches, particularly if you're in more so of a service-based business.
Right.
But interface with your existing customer base or who you believe your target customer would be for this offer through interviews and see how they feel. Is there a convergence of both value and price point that would make it a really easy yes for someone to purchase whatever you're offering them? And if not, what is the appropriate convergence, or do you need to reassess maybe the offer itself?
Makes sense. So that's a good point, right? Is like have a look at what your customer actually wants to buy from you, right? And really get an honest review for sure. And then what are we doing after that? Are we now looking at, okay, I want to launch, or, what's step 3?
Step 3, I want you to actually do the math. Now, this is something that when people are saying, do the math, well, what does that mean? So many times when I walk people through a launch cycle, there's loads of nervousness, and they oftentimes have heard about launching from people within the online marketing space. Now, what a lot of people in the online marketing space won't tell you behind their $1 million launch that they're talking about is that they spent sometimes 1 to 2 years of doing free content and offers to build out brand equity before they ever hit that $1 million launch.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, they also had $500,000 in advertising spend plus labor costs.
Wow.
So their actual profitability off that launch was maybe $100,000, right? So when you look at that, it's so much more than these are my sales goals, and then this is how many units I need to sell to hit that. I actually want you to look at, let's say, for example, all of your followings on your online presence. And let's focus on Instagram first, right? Well, let's say, for example, I have 10,000 followers on Instagram, but my engagement rate, with the exception of Reels, is actually less than 1%.
Right.
So out of that 1%, maybe 2 to 5% of them will buy in a best case scenario of a conversion rate, right? So I want to make sure that as people are building out strategies and goals and KPIs for their launches, that they're really looking at their online platforms first, and knowing that you're going to only have at maximum in digital marketing a 5% conversion rate based off of what messages you're sending out. So then our goal is to make sure that we have as many touch points as possible, and your goals are actually informed by that math.
Right. So this is very, very important, just to have the math and know your numbers and know your information that you need as well. And so you focused on Instagram. Are there other platforms? Does it matter about the platforms, or you're just saying focus on the followers or the people or the customers you already have, right?
I would say focus on the customers you already have, and then knowing if you're going to do things like digital advertising, for example, that anytime you're going to do a direct sale to a cold audience, it's not likely to be as strong of a conversion, right? That you're going to have to spend loads and loads of money in ads to really see a return on investment unless it's an already warm audience. So regardless of which platform that you're on, I encourage you, if you're active and if you are really seeing great performance on multiple platforms, modify the message according to the medium to see the greatest amount of organic reach possible.
Right. Okay, good. What's step 4 in this process?
Yeah, so then I want you to start warming up, like, your customer base up to the offer, right? Okay. And then if you are finding that within this offer, it might be a completely different target than your existing customer base, I want you to ask yourself, how can I be where people are hanging out online? Like you had mentioned earlier, you and I met through Facebook groups. And I think Facebook groups are actually one of the largest untouched strategies, particularly when it comes to service and e-commerce based businesses, because most people aren't spending loads of time in them. But that is typically where someone who wants what you're offering is already hanging out. And so as we're warming people up, I want you to think about the price point of your offer. Is it a 2-figure investment, a 3-figure investment, a 4-figure investment? And the higher the price point, the higher the ticket offer is, the longer period of time that we're actually going to need to warm people up to that offer.
Right.
So Then I go, okay, based off of the price point of the offer, I'm going to either create a 30, 60, or 90-day on ramp moving into a launch. Now, most people, an active cart typically, if you're going to not have an offer on evergreen all the time, but a cart open, cart closed kind of scenario to lend to the psychology of scarcity within marketing. That's typically why that's done.
And when you say link to a cart, an active cart, maybe you can explain that, because some people won't understand it.
Yes. So sometimes your offers are going to be available all the time, right? Maybe you're adding something to a menu and you know it's going to be there. Or if it's clothing, it's going to be there at least for a season. And then at a certain time point, you're going to put it on sale to move it off a rack, right? So there are going to be natural forms within brick and mortar businesses where that's going to happen. But specifically within the online space and an offer, if we allow someone to buy something all the time, meaning the offer is always available, they can sign on whenever, and there's no actual sense of urgency. There's no reason for a client to sign with you now in December and pay a deposit for work in January if they can still buy it in January, mid-January, at the exact same price, right?
Right.
So that's then when we can play with ideas of scarcity. And we can do this actually through having a cart being open for a limited period of time.
Right.
Typically, this is around 7 days. Statistically, for the online space, whether it's courses or digital products, the best days for launches are Tuesdays to Tuesdays, statistically. So that's really helpful to know. But it is a way for us to lend into ideas of scarcity within marketing to really see customers move rather than playing with an idea indefinitely.
So sometimes when I've read these offers, right, and it's the longest sales page you've ever heard, and there's no buttons in between to like, buy me, buy me, buy me. It's like, you've got to read 4,000 pages of content to get to that. Why does it need to be that long?
Yes. So sales page copy typically is done within mid to entry level 4-figure offers, right? The low 4-figure offer in the course space. That's typically when it happens. It also happens largely within the coaching and consultancy space when consultancy is sold as like programs or the idea of a mastermind or things like that. Oftentimes within sales copy, we're finding that people really want to read, but also at the same time, people don't always want to read. So it is a high level of reliance on someone to maybe having 1 to 2 touch points of interaction with someone before they click through that sales page. And the hope is that they're actually going to read through all the content and see it convert. Now, some major crimes that I see with sales pages is what you're mentioning, way too much sales copy, or on the downside, absolutely no sales copy, and it's an immediate click to cart, right? So I want you to think through what's included. How can I include a shift between both direct and transitional calls to action, as well as what does the page look like when the cart is closed, and how do I gather a wait list for data capture versus when a cart is open? And then as time expires through that launch, how can I add a greater sense of urgency to that sales page experience? So key places to do this would be like a top bar notification. I also want to make sure on a landing page that it is actually the end of a funnel, right? So header information and footer information for the rest of your website most likely shouldn't be there. And then we want to make the process as clean and easy as possible. So someone that's wired to yourself, where you go, I just want the information. Please just take me to the payment plan and let me know what's included and get me there as quickly as possible. You can do additional buttons towards the top of your page that are going to serve as click actions to jump someone down to that cart section where they don't have to read everything.
Tell me about what platforms or plugins or systems are good for this, because I feel like the Canadian market, we're a little bit behind in like all this technology that everybody else is using, and and especially I think online businesses probably have it figured out, but it's a lot of like service-based businesses and bricks and mortar don't always plug in this functionality.
Yes. Okay. So a few of my favorites, and I have utilized Zapier a lot to get cart checkouts to work well. within platforms. So a lot of it starts with where your website is being built. And I know a lot of people really enjoy ClickFunnels. I have found the malleability within ClickFunnels from a design capacity somewhat minimal, as well as you're most likely directing someone through a third party of your site. So then tracking truly over a period of time, I go, why would I pay for a third party when I can have everything hosted natively on my site pretty easily? So if you have my favorite payment gateways to utilize would be Moonclerk, Thrivecart. Yes, so those are the two that are really, really popular, particularly if you're not going to utilize WooCommerce. Now, another thing most people don't realize is you can utilize WooCommerce and Shopify just as easily for digital products and courses as you can physical products, just through a clear categorization and the way that you're setting up your store.
And I know that you work with a lot of Canadian companies as well. So it's not just you're not just working with US businesses, right?
Correct.
So great. Take us to step number 5.
Yes. So I want you to test, deliver, and tweak. So particularly when it comes to starting out, right? You might have had your customer validation, but if you were launching a new offer, you might not have social proof. So is there a way that you can actually create a focus group of beta testers to go through and gain social proof from something? Maybe it's people are already interested and you're going to offer them a discount on an offer for them to complete it in exchange for a testimonial. And then I want you to think about, how can that feedback allow me a place to play, to iterate and actually create something better than what my initial idea was? I always encourage as well, do not wait until the last minute to test your checkout. We want to make sure your checkout process, your delivery confirmations, and then whatever you are actually delivering to someone, whether it is a traditional brick and mortar experience, an e-commerce, digital product, or services, that is as clean as possible. Now, this is where CRMs, more robust inventory systems, are really, really helpful, because think about it. Amazon, right? Now, it's a large company. I know a lot of people have thoughts on still giving Amazon lots of money, particularly after the past 2 years. People go to use Amazon because it is so easy to buy things, and it reduces the level of fear that your order isn't going to show up. You know when it's delivered to your house, you know when it's shipped, you know when the payment is processed, and you're immediately allowed to give feedback as this was a great order, or no, my order was damaged. And when that happens, they immediately take you to a refund page. And so sometimes I always ask people, or I even think in my head as I'm doing builds, how can I make this as easy and as smooth as possible before a launch happens, right?
I totally agree with you. I've said that to businesses. Look, be like Amazon. So make it frictionless for your customer. Make it easy for your customer to buy and get their product. It doesn't matter if it's a digital product or a physical product. Try and make it easy. You know, I think that is the unique differentiation for a small local business, is really make it easy for your customer to buy from you. Don't make it complicated.
Exactly. And then the other thing I want you to also think through as you're planning out content for our launch. So many people say, well, like, how do I do a 60-day on-ramp? Like, how do I talk about the same idea where someone doesn't feel like I'm doing sales continually? And I want to remind you that you aren't marketing to the same person. Like, you might have an ideal customer profile, but let's even think about any personality type that tests. Let's go with the Myers-Briggs test, for example, right? So this is very commonly used. It's a combination of 4 letters that mean specific things. And I want to say there's about 16, 64, don't remember the exact number, combinations within this test, right? But some people are far more logically minded. So they want to see facts, figures, numbers. Other people are far more emotionally driven. So they really want to hear about the promise. Other people really want to hear about social proof, right? And how your product or offer serves someone else very well. So I want you to think through all of these different people. And as you're creating email campaigns, as you're creating social media posts, actually start to address all of those different personality types and different persuasions as far as how you would talk about an offer or a
Right,
service.
right. That's very cool. And I think we might be able to do a workshop on that 30, 60, 90-day ramping plan. I think that would
Yeah.
be a good idea because I
Yes.
feel like this magical bucket of information that we need to know about how to do this. So I love that opportunity.
Yeah.
So, and now the final step is number 6. What are we doing in number 6? We're ready.
Yes, you're ready. You've launched. You have gone through the stress of launching. You have put something out there and people are buying. So what happens next? You debrief. Now, debriefing is not sexy, right? Like, it's like, okay, we've just done this massive thing and you want to be on a vacation on a beach somewhere, right? Like after a massive launch in your mind, that's what the celebration happens. And I would say false is actually where the true work begins, right? Because if after a launch is completed and people have purchased, we're just to the acquirement phase of the customer journey. We're just at step 3 out of step 5, right?
Yeah.
And so once we've acquired a customer, we want to figure out how we can retain the customer, how we can deliver the best amount of service possible. And then as a team, we actually will want to look through our data points and understand what wasn't working. So if we decide to launch this again the next quarter or the next year, what are key insights that we need to know and celebrate the wins and also really discover and unlock key areas for improvement so we don't repeat them again.
Right, right. And so tell me about a business who has this is a really great, why would we want to launch all these things constantly or every 6 months, or like, what's the point of all of this?
Yes. So outside of having more predictable, sustainable revenue within your business, where it isn't as hands-on with exchanging time for money, it also allows us to keep innovating ideas and keeping our customers excited about what we're offering. Oftentimes what happens, whether it's brick and mortar, digital, doesn't really matter. We see customers sometimes as one-off attractions.
Right.
They come in, they purchase it, they receive the service, they may be satisfied, they may be dissatisfied. We kind of don't feel like we have loads of control over that. We're like, oh, we did due diligence and move them on their way. But the reality is it takes such less time and money to retain someone. But if I'm offering the same thing, so if I go into a restaurant and I serve someone the same menu every single day for 6 months, what was once their favorite restaurant has now become mundane and boring because there was nothing ever new for them to try, right? Like your favorite food, if you have it every day, you no longer are excited about it, right?
Very true.
And so many of us have been serving up the same exact offer, and we have served the same meal to our customer.
Right.
And we wonder why they never come back. And so that is the true value in choosing to launch and iterate something past what you already have.
Right.
I think it also allows you to really clearly identify where are the gaps within your product or your program suite right now, where you might have a lot of people from an analytics perspective, maybe coming to your site, but they're not purchasing anything, right? So how can we lower the barriers to entry in an appropriate way to still reach our target audiences, but to be able to serve the largest amount of people possible?
I love it. Great idea. Do you workshop directly with clients to work them through some of these processes?
Yes, we do. So whether it's books, whether it's courses, a lot of times even people think books are more of like a dated idea, but oftentimes books serve as tripwire products to serving and workshops and speaking, honestly, in a larger forum.
Right. So tell me what a tripwire is. I don't think our audience maybe knows.
Absolutely.
The lingo, I guess, online.
Yes. So a tripwire product is specifically going to be something that's going to be offered that is most likely underneath $100 in an investment. And it's really something that is packaging an excellent experience, and it makes it a no-brainer. I call it's the easiest yes for your customer to
Okay.
ever purchase, right? So maybe right now you're in the online space and you have that freebie, but your service packages start in the hundreds of dollars. A tripwire product would be something placed between those two offers to have someone have an amazing client experience. And most likely, it actually doesn't really require a lot of one-on-one time. It's built for automation. And then most likely what happens is once someone has the experience that's very value packed of working with you, they go, okay, amazing. How can I work with you again? Right. And so that's the true purpose of a tripwire.
Lovely.
Is to get someone in the door and then see them kind of graduate with really clear movement through your product suite.
Okay, I love it. So this is a great way for businesses really to stay relevant, to show new products, new services, and new expertise. So I would recommend that any business, whether you be a brick or mortar or a product or service-based business, can think of ways to develop launch offers or products, right? And I know that you would totally agree. So
absolutely,
I appreciate it. I will have Melissa's details in our comments for our channel. And if you want to get hold of me at BACD, I'll have that as well so that we can help you and facilitate any of this kind of work that you need to do for your business as well. So Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your time with us. It's been wonderful to chat with you again. And I look forward to us maybe doing that 30, 60, 90-day ramp workshop.
Sounds good.